suppose the red-faced guy who is rage, and then the one in green who was supposed to be disgust. Okay, and then there was one a tall, a skinny sort of figure which was meant to symbolize fear. Okay, so these five basic emotions were all jostling for space within the girl's head, and every now and then one of them takes control of the console, and that person is sort of running the child's life at that particular moment. So it's very easy to help children to understand emotions using this. So I would suggest that for young children, you can use this. It will help. Okay, so let me get back to my screen share, and just pointing out that we need to try and teach our children about. Sorry, we need to teach our children about emotions and how to deal with them. Right. Okay. Right. Now, along with understanding the emotions, we also need to teach them the correct way to respond, right? I said that we learn to respond correctly to all those emotions. So how would you say that we should teach the child to respond if the child is cranky? Can I hear some responses?
Usually I just ask the child, can we talk about it?
Okay.
That works for my child. So, and then usually we count down a bit and then she starts talking. And
okay,
then I get to know the reason and it's easy to figure things out. But
okay.
we also work on what solutions she thinks would be all right and what solutions we should actually have.
Okay, so that's good. So if a child is cranky, you try to ask them to express it in different ways. You ask them what's going on. You try and find out the reason for it. So you're teaching the child how to deal with their crankiness and to first accept that they are cranky. They need to understand and accept that, okay, I'm feeling a little out of sorts. I'm being a little irritable. Okay, I'm responding badly to people. And this is because of this particular reason. And I need to learn to work on the reason. All right. Now, suppose dad comes home tired. Can we just put it into the chat box? It will probably be faster that way, and everybody gets a chance to respond. Suppose a dad comes home tired. How do we demonstrate to the child how we respond to each other? Okay, what should we do if dad comes home tired? Allow her to settle. Okay, that's good. If dad comes home tired, what would mom do? How would mom demonstrate to the children how to respond?
Anyone?
Mom steps up to engage the kid. Okay. Jointly with child make tea. Okay.
What
so
else?
you respond by offering. Mom takes care of the child. Okay. You basically, if someone comes home tired, we try to. I mean, if we were to immediately start, for instance, with saying, "Oh, this has happened in the day, and I want you to help me with something else or the other." If we do that, we are setting ourselves up for a clash, right? If one person has come home tired and the other spouse immediately starts with a long list of things to do, or
Right.
I want to go out, I want to do some shopping or whatever, it is not conducive to a good atmosphere in the house, right? So someone comes home tired, we probably would tell them, would you like to lie down for a bit? Would you like to have a bath? Can I get you something? Would you like a cup of tea? So you're acknowledging their tiredness, and you're doing what you can to help them to get over it, right? And by doing so, you are demonstrating to the child that this is how you respond to someone who's tired. Similarly, I hope we will do the same thing if mom comes home tired. Okay, we need to do. If a mom comes home tired, the others in the house, the father or the others, should respond the same way. Suppose a friend gets an A plus. How would you respond? Okay, if your friend in office gets a promotion, that would be the same way that child should respond if their friend gets an A plus. How should we respond? Yes, has someone replied? Yeah, give him space, someone has said. No comparison must be made. Okay. Okay. Congratulate the friend. Okay. All right. So if somebody gets a promotion, you might feel, see, the thing is that there may be an emotion of, oh, I didn't get it. There may be a little sadness. There may be a little even jealousy. Okay. That can be discussed. But ultimately, the way to respond, deal with that emotion is to put it aside and to anyway go and congratulate the friend, right? So you have to demonstrate this in your life, and then the child will learn to do the same when it happens to their friend, right? And you will not compare or say anything that's different. Suppose a friend's family has lost their dog. How would we respond? And we're teaching the child also to respond, no? That there is some grief that has happened. We would respond probably by asking them about it, right? We would say, "Oh, I'm sorry to know that you lost your dog. How do we, how do we help you, or tell me about it, or something like that." So you are talking to the person, allowing them to vent, allowing them to talk about the dog that they lost. Suppose a grandmom is sick. How would we respond? Now, our emotion at that point, if our parent was sick, I'm talking about the parents here, right? Suppose the grandmom is parent's mother, okay, but the husband or wife's mother. If the mother was sick, obviously there would be some sense of apprehension, some sense of fear, something would be there. That was the emotion that we are facing. But what is the appropriate way to express it? Should we get very anxious? Should we say, "Oh God, what's happening?" and sort of get in a panic, or sort of drop everything and rush there and create a scene or get angry with the doctors? If we are showing this kind of emotion, we are ourselves not regulating our emotion very well, right? We are not regulating our fear, our apprehension about our parents' sickness. And our child will learn that when you are sick, when someone is sick, it's okay to lose control. It's okay to behave in a very sort of hysterically anxious fashion. So the way we demonstrate it is going to be how the child also learns to handle the emotions. So this is what I was trying to say. Now, suppose a friend has gone for an interview or the child has failed her interview. How would we respond? Okay, so we may feel sad for them, right? We may feel, oh, my friend didn't get through. But how would you respond? You might it's okay to say that you're sad along with her. You can say, "Oh, I'm so disappointed you didn't get it. I'm so sorry you didn't get it. I wish you had got it. Doesn't matter. Try again. It'll come next time." So show concern about the situation. Pray for them. Pray for the person. Yes, I'm getting a lot of responses here. Right. There is one more interview coming. Yes, I'll pray for you. I'll be there with you. So you're encouraging, you're comforting, you're also sharing in the grief, so that your child will learn that this is the way to respond if my friend fails in something. Okay, so if my friend wants to get into the cricket team of the school and they don't get in, this is how I should respond, because I saw my dad or mom responding like this when a friend failed her interview. Now, similarly, when someone dies, our response will teach the child how we respond to death. So these are just some examples that I was giving, that this is how we deal with teaching the child how to respond appropriately. Okay, now what about older children? Okay, how do we deal with older children's emotion? As I said last time, we have to, as a child grows up, we have to give a increased freedom of choice, okay? And you allow them to make more and more decisions, but you keep reasoning and negotiating with them, right? You don't just simply let them loose and say that you do whatever you want. That's not the idea. We try to continue to talk with them about it. Okay, so now again, I've got some examples here, and I want you to say that out of these things that I've written out here, which do you think is something which a parent should negotiate a lot about? Which things can be passed over? Don't mention those, but which are the things over which you would want to reason and negotiate and set boundaries for your child? This is a teenager. A tattoo, a nose ring, long hair, punk hair, pink hair, okay? Wants to drop out of school, take music as a career, join a band, drive without a license, hang out with older, slightly bold kids, maybe doing something you don't like, playing cricket or football at district level with their grades falling. And all these things are there. If you get into an emotional scene with the child, we don't want to get into an emotional scene. We want to negotiate and reason rather than getting into an emotional quarrel with them. So which of these do you think would require a lot of negotiating and setting boundaries. Which of them would you pass over? Let's hear what you all say. Tattoo. Tattoo is very serious, Mr. Gaikwad. Do you mean you would pass over it, or things which are not reversible? Okay. So the tattoo is not reversible. Is that why, Ishita? Okay, not reversible. Okay.
Can you hear me? No, actually, I meant not reversible in terms of, that image, their character, wounding
Okay.
them that way.
So which one would you say is the most, can you just say it or put it in the chat, which you think is the most serious here? Which would you negotiate over?
Um, Hang out with bold kids, maybe.
Okay. Drive without license.
Drive with.
Okay. Betty has put that. Yeah. So see, you can understand that the way we respond to this would depend on how our own faith and our own understanding of the world is, isn't it? If we realize, see, remember I told you last time that, I don't know how many of you all were here last time, but I can just stress again that during the stage of identity formation, during this teen years, children will try to uh, question what they should wear. They will try to form their own self identity. They may experiment with clothes. They may experiment with with things like that. Okay, so uh, I think as parents, it makes sense to let some things go and to focus on the main things. So, for instance, long hair, is that a big issue now? No, no. If the kid wants to grow long hair for some time, let them grow long hair. Then nothing, the world is not going to end if he has long hair for some time. After some time, he's probably going to cut it anyway because he's going to realize most young men as they grow up, they realize that in order to be taken more seriously at the workplace, they have to cut their hair. So several of them cut it. Several, if they are in, say, professions like advertising or something like that, where it doesn't matter, they may continue to keep long hair, but generally they cut it. So it's not worth making a big deal about it. If somebody wants to color their hair pink, do we need to make a big fuss about it? Well, you need to think, as you said, is it reversible? That might be one issue. More than that, they're just experimenting, they're just trying things out. Leave that, right? But driving without a license, I agree, that is serious, right? Because that is against the law, and they're driving a vehicle which might lead to accidents for themselves or for others because they're not yet of age. So this obviously would be serious. This you have to negotiate, and this is the boundaries will be very firm, right? You have to say here, no, this is not allowed. This I will not permit to do. This you cannot do. You can drive. You can learn to drive around, inside our building or something like that, but you cannot drive on the road. Maybe you can negotiate that way. Drop out of school. How many would be okay with that? Has anyone put that in? Okay. What about playing video games? Somebody has put that. Okay, we can ask that later. All right. So anyway, you get my drift that you have to negotiate more with teenage children about all these things. Figure out which is the most important. Give them some leeway to experiment and do what they like. But obviously, you will have to negotiate a lot about different things. And the way you are will also influence the way the children make their choices. Okay. Now coming to the next thing, and I think I'm running very badly out of time. Cognitive development. Now, cognitive development is an area also where parents have to help their children a lot. Okay. And here we need to remember that there is a biological development of the brain from the time the fetus in the womb, the baby in the womb develops a very basic brain structure. But as soon as the child is born, within a few weeks, the brain starts developing and it continues to develop. Okay. In some areas, it continues to develop till maybe 5 or 6 years. The basic shape is formed. And after that, certain things don't happen. So, for instance, in the visual cortex, within the first few years, not first year, there's a mistake, sorry. Within the first few years, the visual cortex, that is the visual areas, they do not learn new things anymore. But in the prefrontal cortex, that is the thinking part of our brain, it continues to grow till the 20s. Okay. So adolescents, for instance, don't have a very developed prefrontal cortex. So they are not able to regulate their emotions as well as older people can. They also tend to have little poor judgment, so they will take risks and they will do things which sometimes are not very wise because their prefrontal cortex is not developed as much. So this whole process of the development of the brain, it happens through the genes. I've written it here. It's influenced by genes. It's also influenced by nutrition. It's influenced by toxins. It's influenced by experience and exposure, right? So for instance, if a child is not given good food, often the development of the brain is not very good. And that's a big problem in India today. The children don't get good food when after birth, and because of this lack of nutrition, children can end up with very poor IQs. Their brain doesn't grow well enough for them to handle a lot of intellectual pursuits. Toxins such as alcohol can create problems for the brain. And then experience and exposure. The more you experience and the more you are exposed to, the more your brain forms synapses and connections, which helps the brain to develop. Okay. Now, there are different stages of brain growth. The first stage is the child is just reacting to the environment. That's a sensory motor stage. From 2 to 6 years, the child is in a pre-operational stage where everything is very unidimensional. For instance, they will understand length, but they might not understand width. Okay, they may understand basic size, but they may not understand that you can have different forms of the same thing. Okay, so it's a very unidimensional kind of understanding. From 7 to 12 years, the child understands much more, but they cannot understand abstract concepts so much. So they may not understand, very philosophical ideas or anything like that. But by the time the child is 12, they're able to reason and talk about abstract things a lot better. And then, of course, as I said, the brain continues to develop till the age of 25. Okay, that is roughly where the cognitive development goes. Okay, so how should parents ensure that the child gets the best cognitive growth that they can possibly get? Well, the first thing is to start with pregnant women and very very early nutrition for children. We have to ensure healthy nutrition and medical care, all right, and including deal with the stress adequately. And all these things are not very well dealt with sometimes in India and in poorer countries like ours. And this can lead to a lot of cognitive problems in children. Once a child is born, ensure a healthy diet, ensure adequate sleep and exercise. Okay, this is very important. Exercise is important, and adequate nutrition and adequate sleep. All these things are important in the development of the brain. Along with, when you talk about exercise, it's important to teach them a sport. Okay, teach them one or the other game, some kind of sport. Physical activity tends to develop the brain as well. Okay, because the brain has a lot of synapses and connections which are connected to our motor and our sensory skills as well. And the more those things develop, the more also, strangely enough, our thinking abilities and all develop. There are two things which are very important in developing cognitive skills, and one is teaching reading as early as possible. The other is, strangely enough, teaching music as early as possible. Okay, both these things help a great deal. Of course, reading is very important. How do you prepare a child to read? By talking to the child. As much as you talk to the child learns to process language. So you can use one or two languages. In our country, often it is two languages at least. And then when you're teaching the child formally to read, you must introduce the script. Okay, so teach them the letters, teach them the sound of the letters, start then teaching them words, okay, along with pictures, things like that, along with rhymes, along with stories. So you make it as much fun as possible. The earlier you start teaching reading, recognizing letters and reading to them and helping them to read for themselves, the more the children's brains will grow and expand. Okay, so reading is very important. It's a very important skill. It helps in the cognitive growth. Teaching music has been found to help children a lot. So children with musical training usually tend to have higher IQs, probably because of the skills required for learning to play an instrument or to sing in a regular fashion. So musical training helps in developing the brain as well. So it's something which parents can do. Okay. Along with that, we should give as much exposure as possible to as many things as you can. As I said, it is exposing the child to various things which helps the child to grow, child's brain to grow. So the natural world, animals, plants, sports, arts, music, libraries, food, whatever you want, whatever you can expose a child to. Along with that, you should be able to allow them to develop their critical faculties by answering their questions and asking them questions. So children naturally ask questions because they're curious. But if we don't answer their questions, I think I talked about this last time as well. If we don't answer their questions, slowly they stop asking. So don't ever not answer their questions. Answer their questions as best as you can so that they are encouraged to keep on asking questions. And now you in turn ask them questions, ask them how to do things, ask them what they think about things, question them about what they have read, question them about the story that they read, ask them to explain it back to you. Okay, keep asking them questions. Now allowing them decision making also helps them to think, because it forces them to decide why they like something or why they want something. So you're talking and discussing with them why they want to choose something. They are actually developing their critical faculties by doing that. Sometimes what you can do is set tasks for them to do in groups. Okay. Now, group work is not only fun for the child, it also helps the children to again process things, isn't it? They have to articulate what they think. They have to listen to the other person's voice. They have to evaluate it from the other child's perspective. They have to come to a joint decision about how to do it, isn't it? They have to evaluate so many things. So a group task is a very important way of developing the child's brain, because the child will have to learn a lot of critical faculties. They have to develop a lot of critical faculties in order to do group work. Right? It'll also help them to be creative, to take decisions, to look at the pros and cons. All these things are things which parents can do. So you can ask the children to draw a poster for a relative who's coming home. You can ask them to put up a song together. You can encourage them to do a little skit about something like that. Children love doing all that. So you can just encourage this kind of joint tasks, okay, which they can do together. Okay, now I'm coming to studies. And can anyone guess who this is? Who do you think I've put up over here? Probably one of the wisest men. Anyone?
Solomon.
Yeah, Solomon. Okay, that's supposed to be Solomon. And the explosion of things behind him is an example of what Solomon was like. Okay, so if you look at, I'll give you that verse just now. 1 Kings 4:29 to 34. Can someone read that? Abhijit, can you? 1 Kings chapter 4:29 to 34.
Okay, once. Yeah, anyone finds it, please read it. 1 Kings chapter 4. 1 Kings chapter 4, 29 to 34, is it?
Yes.
Okay, here it comes. Oh, okay, I'll just put it on the, I'll read it once again. God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East and greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan the Ezrahite, wiser than Heman, Kalkol and Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He spoke about plant life from the cedar of Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of walls. He also spoke about animals and birds, reptiles, and fish from all nations. People came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. That's all.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring this in to show that if one person asks God for wisdom, God is able to give so abundantly and God is able to give so generously. And so when we ask God for wisdom for ourselves and for our children, I think God is only too delighted to help us. So we need to ask. And this is what God can do with a person who is committed to him. God is actually the source of all our wisdom and knowledge. And recently I've been reading Job. I was reading Vinod Ramchandra on Job, and it just reminded us, that see, God is the source of all our wisdom and knowledge. The last few chapters of Job, when God is answering Job, he doesn't give him any answer about the other things. He just shows him what he is in creation. And when we understand that God has the secrets of the sea, of the snow, of the rain, of the stars, of everything, all the living creatures, the mountain goats, the leviathan, everything in the world, God is the creator of all this. And God is the one he's everything, right? He's astronomer, psychologist, botanist, and everything. God is the source of all this. And we follow this God, and Jesus, our role model and our Savior and our Lord, the Holy Spirit who dwells with us. We have access to this God's everything, right? He just gives us so abundantly of what he has and what he is. So we need to see our studies and our knowledge from this viewpoint, and this begins with parents. Okay, we need to show our children that we need to study with responsibility, because we are learning about God's word. We are learning about how we find our place in God's society, to do the best work we can to teach and help others to grow and to serve others. And we're finding our place. And in order to do that, we have to study, because God has given us so much of knowledge in all these various areas. He's the best engineer. He's the best doctor. He knows everything about the body. He's the greatest artist. Okay. So whatever we want, God is, right? And he can teach us. He's the greatest musician. Okay. The songs of the birds and the whales and whatnot, it's all created by God. No? So with gratitude and humility and enthusiasm, with hard work, without fear and worry and doubt, and without competing with anyone else, this is the attitude with which we have to study. And parents have to teach this to the children. Okay? Because the children are not going to learn this from their school. They're not going to learn this. I don't know if they learn it from Sunday school even. They're not going to learn this from anywhere else, because everywhere else, there is this whole thing about competition. You have to study. You have to study. Why? Because you have to come first. Why? Because you have to, I don't know, get a job, whatever. It's all different, right? So let's hear your comments about this. Students following Jesus should strive to top their class. How many of you all agree with this comment? Not needed, Betty says. Mary Bose says yes. Okay. Anyone else? Disagree, as it leads to unhealthy competition. Study to show themselves approved to God. Okay, so that was the idea. See, the trick in the question is to top their class. Of course, the students should learn to study and do as well as possible. But as soon as we say to top their class, you are getting in an element of competition, that we're asking you to defeat other children. So that is not an attitude which you need to foster in your children. Encourage them to try and do as well as they can. Maybe better than they did last time, learn more than they did last time, but don't worry about whether they're topping the class or not. Don't get them to think that way. What about follow your heart? Is that an attitude for a Christian? Follow your heart. You read this in all movies, and all will say, listen to your heart, follow your heart. What do you think? Should we follow our heart? Children get irritated with such statements. Are you talking about this one, Malika, the second one? Follow your heart? Or the first one? The first one. All right. Yeah. So what about follow your heart?
Heart is deceptive of all.
Heart is deceitful. Okay. Yeah. So, well, take it with a pinch of salt here. Okay? Follow your heart is your heart. If it implies your emotions, it can lead you to a little bit of guidance, but don't go by it completely. Follow God's will. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Should we keep informed about various courses, avenues? Agree or disagree? Of course, I think everybody would agree, right? we all, of course, we should be informed about various courses and avenues. That is good. We need to be informed. Medicine and engineering are still the best fields of study. Anyone agree with the fourth one? Not at all. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Give your child the edge. Again, the competition elements are coming in. Future prospects, that is money and status, should be considered when deciding a course or career. Should we? To some extent. Yeah, I mean, I suppose you need to be able to earn enough to provide for yourself and for your family. But then it should not become a thing that you go for the one which provides you the most money or the most, whatever. That should not be the deciding factor in anything. It's important to consider the competition. This is what some people say. This is what will be told to you in coaching classes. So again, the competition element comes in and you need to figure that out. You should avoid copying assignments. I'm sure we would all agree with that. Okay, so we should teach our children that. Get a head start by going for coaching. Again, the competition element. Studying abroad is a necessary expenditure parents have to cater for. What do you all think? Parents must not force children into any profession. Okay, what about the last one? Disagree. Soumya, with the last one? Are we talking about the last one here? Yes. Okay. What do others think? And I included this because nowadays there is so much pressure on parents and there's so much peer pressure on children to do this. And this is something that we have to think about, okay? That this is going to be there for our children and we're going to have to figure out how to handle this and how to deal with it. Okay, so these were just some examples that I have. I'll stop here, just reminding us again that Jesus wanted all the children to come to him. And I deliberately picked this picture at the bottom because it shows a teenager coming to the Lord. Okay, and these, of course, are younger children. The Lord wants all our children to come to him, and he wants us as parents to help our children to come to him and to grow emotionally and in their intellectual and cognitive areas. And we need to help them to do it. And if we don't have the wisdom, we ask God, and he gives generously and he will help us to do it. That's our comfort, to know that all our children will be taught by the Lord and they will have true peace. Okay, so I'll close here and leave the time open for questions.
Okay. All right, friends, you're free to connect with us on the links posted. You will be given updates of future series if that is on this. Yeah. Can you unshare the screen? So yeah, all right. Okay, any questions? I think there are some of the questions which people are wanting to ask anonymously. So you could send it directly to Dr. Jamila or to me, and it will be considered anonymously, and we read it out and answer. Yeah. So any questions, please post it on the chat. Anyone?
Dr. Jamila,
Yeah.
this is something
Yes,
that
Prabhu.
you mentioned during your talk, and it stood out to me. So basically, you mentioned that there are certain feelings that children feel, and adults don't really recognize it because we are past that stage. Like, for example, desire for attention, jealousy, need to belong. Could you just highlight what are some common things that they feel that we are very poor in recognizing?
Okay. Yeah, see, we may not always recognize when the child is, because we ourselves don't have that desperate need to fit in. We don't have
Yes.
perhaps as much of a pressure from peers, right? So we may not understand the child's intensity of feeling at that point. The child wants to fit in with the rest of the group, right? They want to be dressed like the rest of the group. They want to. I read somewhere that teenagers want to be more like everyone else than anyone else. Okay, so they want to be more like everyone else than anyone else. That is what the teenager wants to be. So they want to be in the in the trendiest clothes more than anyone else. So that feeling we may not quite understand. We may brush it off, right? And the feeling of wanting to belong, the feeling of uh, the 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 intensity of emotions when a friend breaks up with them, or they feel that someone has been mean to me, or my best friend has betrayed me, or even if they liked somebody and then that it didn't work out. Okay, they just had a crush on somebody and then that feeling went off, or that person said something rude or did not reciprocate in any way. So the pain that the children feel, we may not feel because we have forgotten what it was like to be that age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
We also probably felt the same when we were that age, but we have forgotten. Malika says, what about addiction to video games? As there are certain games that children like to connect them with their friends. Yeah. When the children are very young, I think it's good for parents to know what their children are playing and to discuss with them how to set limits on this. Okay, you'll have to figure it out how many minutes or how many whatever. I don't think it should be hours. Okay, so how long you are allowed to play your video game is something that you need to negotiate with the children. One thing is that many of these video games are pretty violent. Okay, so you're going to have to discuss it with them. I remember even a game like road rash. What is it? Road rash, no, Sati? Yeah, road rash. I think which our children used to play. It was one of the earliest video games. It's a racing game, but as they are racing, the person on the motorbike, that is the player, they put their leg out and they kick somebody off the street. It's like very weird. So initially I used to feel, okay, like, what is this? They're bashing up people and they're just driving a motorbike. But the children would say, it's not real, Mama. Don't you know it's not real? So, well, the best that we could do was to limit their game to a certain number and then to keep on giving them the feedback that, okay, they are pushing someone, that's not okay. And they say, no, we know it's not okay. We wouldn't really do it, but it's just a game. So, yeah, I mean, you can't completely stop them from playing it because it's probably the least violent of the games. Okay. Some games are really violent. So you're going to have to pick, choose, negotiate, figure out. It's not easy always, but do it. It's a challenge. And I'm sure if there are alternatives to this, such as family time, singing time, playing with older cousins, when there are other lots of interesting things happening in the house, it would automatically limit these things as well. And so then you can negotiate that. Okay, being a friend to them and being a parent, where do we draw the line? Okay, thanks. That's an interesting question. And I think what happens is that as time goes on, the friend part increases and the parent part decreases. That's what happens roughly. By the time the child is an adult, 18, 21, and then especially by the time they become 25, 30, they have to be making their own decisions and doing their own things. So you have to negotiate that, right? You have to figure that out. Some children are mature quite early, in which case you don't have to be a very strict parent to those children because they learn to self-regulate quite early. If they are self-regulating early and they don't need you to do it for them, as quick as you can. See, the point of parenting is as quick as you can to allow them to be themselves and to step back and be a friend. And we are ultimately, all of us on our journey in this human life to God, right? We're going back to Jesus. This is our life, and we are ultimately, all of us, parents or children, we are all ultimately equal at the foot of the cross. No, it's only till the children become adults that they need us to be parents. After that, we will become advisors and friends. So that's the best answer that I can give there. All right. Was there another question? How does one prepare to be a good parent before you become a parent? Yeah, a good question. And I think the best answer to that is that you be a good Christian. As you develop your own personality and your own faith and your own belief system, you will become a better and better parent when the time comes. And I think as a parent, you have to become open to listening to the children. Actually, the children will teach us as much as we teach them or more, because they will question all your beliefs and you will be forced to re-examine everything. And that is good. It's not bad. They will force you to re-examine. If you are not listening to them and you're just imposing your views on them, then you will not learn and they will not learn. There will just be a distance between you all. But the whole point is that when they question, you should be able to think through and correct whatever your mistakes are, because none of us have perfect belief systems. No? Many of us probably think things which are not quite wise or right, and we may find that we have to make changes along the way. Okay, and we may find that they push us to re-examine our faith as well, and to re-examine different issues. And so be open, keep questioning, and that will prepare you.
There's a question by Prabhu.
Most of the video games are like that. Better than getting addicted to movies, especially when parents are outlaws. Yes, what is that, Abhijit?
There's a question by Prabhu saying birth order, typically younger children are disadvantaged compared to their eldest child in terms of resources, education, attention, etc. So how can we take deliberate efforts to stay unbiased?
Okay.
Younger and older child.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it depends really, because sometimes many older children think that younger children get more attention, right? And younger children get more love because they are smaller, and the elder child is always told that you have to adjust with the younger child. So it's both ways, okay? But yes, sometimes the elder child will get a lot of undivided parental attention which the younger children may not get. So yes, we have to make a deliberate attempt to make sure that children do not feel that way, and check that, listen to what they are saying and see whether there's any truth in their complaints, whoever is making the complaint, whether it's the elder child or the younger child. Make sure that you give roughly equal resources to both. Now, it will depend, of course, on what courses they take. One child may take a course where you can get a very, you might get a cheaper seat and you may not have to spend that much money. Another child may take a course where they get admission in a costlier college. So they will obviously not be complete equality. That cannot happen. But I think, roughly speaking, parents will know how to divide their stuff and their time and their resources so that each child benefits. Okay, so if you have a child who is a special needs child, they may need a lot of extra resources, which is fine. The older children also, it should be taken into account, and you pray together about it, that this has to be done. This is how our younger sibling needs this. So as a family, you should decide perhaps to do that. So just keep asking God to show you how to wisely handle this. Okay.
Yeah, there's maybe a kind of an argument, but most of the video games are like that, maybe violent or whatever. Video games are better than getting addicted to movies, especially when parents are out long hours. So the justification is video games are shorter, movies are longer. So that's what one of the parents is saying.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that is true. Most of the video games are like that, which is why what we need to do is go on talking to the children about them. See, if they are flowing with it and not even questioning the violence, that is when it's a problem. Because otherwise, if you keep aware, if you are using your critical faculties to assess that, okay, this is violent. So while I'm playing this game, I do not agree with this violence. I would guard myself from actually doing this kind of thing. So you need to keep talking to them about it. That's the same thing with movies as well. Is there any movie these days which doesn't have sex and violence and, it's very difficult to find any movie like that. You're probably not going to have just a handful like that. So our policy was always that let the children read, see, or do anything, but you keep talking about it and you keep questioning it so that you are using your objective judgment on it. You're not just flowing with it and accepting it and letting it sink into your unconscious, your semi-conscious mind without any judgment.
Yeah.
Okay? Does that help?
Yeah. Dr. Jamila, just related to
What
this,
is
it seems.
in children?
Yeah. There is video game has now emerged as the number one hobby of people around the world. So do you think parents have to educate themselves also about video games? Because there's a lot of violence and sex, and video games comes across as a harmless thing, but can there be a bad effect of it on children?
Yeah, no. I don't agree that it's harmless completely, Abhijit. A lot of them are pretty. A lot of kids who get really hooked onto video games because if you don't monitor it, it's possible that the rewards that they get are so addictive that they cannot stop playing. So you will have to keep an eye on your children and see how much they're playing. And definitely you need to set limits to it, to whatever, any screen time, whether it's video games, TV, phones, anything. Screen time has to be objectively measured and checked and constantly revised. That how much am I spending time on it? Am I doing it to the neglect of my relationships? Am I doing it to the neglect of other hobbies? Am I spending more time than I planned on it? Okay, so these are the things, these are the questions that you will ask so that you regulate yourself and you teach your children also to regulate. So yes, parents need to be educated in it.
There's
Okay,
an
what is your view on ADHD? True or learned behavior? Yes, it is true, but ADHD is a real condition. Okay, and if it is very severe, it needs treatment. If it's mild, it could be handled at home. All right. Yes. Did I miss anything, Abhishek?
Yeah, anonymous question. My child is in her teens. When we as parents try to correct her gently, she feels no one understands her. How to get along in this situation?
Okay, so perhaps what is needed there is something that you said sparked her off. So perhaps what you need to do is just ask her questions rather than correcting her. Just talk about it. Don't correct her. Okay. First, try and understand her point of view in great detail so that you can say, okay, I'm trying to understand. Explain it. Okay. I'm sorry if you felt I didn't understand. It's good for us to say sorry every now and then if the child is feeling like that. So say, I'm sorry, I did not mean to make you feel that way. So tell us, what is it that you want to explain to us? Let me understand. We need to understand. So if you approach it from a slightly different point of view, you may be able to talk about it. Don't jump to correcting her, but help her to self-regulate whatever it is. See, the usual conflict causes between parents are this screen time spent on phone and all those sort of things, clothes, time spent with different children, the amount of time spent on studies, other hobbies or other addictions that children may have, particularly boys, the smoking, drinking, they get that becomes a big issue. So these are the main areas where parents and children disagree and where the children may feel they're not understood. So talk about it, okay, and help them to self-regulate. That is the whole idea. They have to understand that this is what I'm feeling, this is what I want to do, and this is the appropriate or inappropriate way to express it. Okay?
Right, yeah. Did you answer that on ADHD? What is your view on ADHD?
Yes, I answered that already. I said that it's a real condition and we need to get proper help. Often you will need professional help for it. So please take the children for professional help if the child has hyperactivity, if they are not concentrating, if their attention span is very low, if they're very disorganized, forgetful, leave things around, forget things. Okay, please take them for some professional assessment and care.
Any other question, friends? You can put it on the chat or unmute and ask. If you want to ask something anonymously, you are free to send it to Dr. Jamila directly on the chat or to me, and we will consider it anonymous. Dr. Jamila, earlier you had spoken about, I think one of the questions was about getting tattoo. And
Yeah.
I think generally many Christians feel strongly against it as parents because, the body is a temple of God and you should not in any ways mess with the body in that sense. So I think
Okay.
one of the things we had done was on our youth Friday nights meetings had a session on tattoo, because a lot of youngsters are fascinated with tattoos, but after showing them some clips of how some people regret having tattoos, and some popular film actress, and then some of the skin infections that have come out, some of them drop that idea. So is that kind of dialogue important with teenagers, instead
Yes,
of
of course it
giving
is.
them the long rope or whatever? Yeah.
Yes, of course it is. It's important to talk about the pros and cons of everything. So you can talk about the pros and cons of tattoos as well. I think that I deliberately didn't get into that, Abhijit, because I knew that I may disagree. disagree
Yeah. Okay. Some of the things. Yeah.
because I don't
Right.
feel that it's a very big deal. If a child
Right.
wants a small tattoo, I don't have a problem with
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Okay?
That's
But
just one of
obviously,
the.
yeah, if they
Yeah.
want
That's.
to get a small tattoo, I don't have a problem with it. But then
Right.
if they want to get a huge big thing, then obviously it's one, it's going to be painful. Two, it may get infected. Three, it may call attention to you in ways you afterwards don't like. Right? So there are pros and cons to it. I remember I had this patient who had a snake coming from this part of his hand all the way around the back and then down here. And it was beautiful. I can't tell you how beautiful that snake was. It was in multicolors, and it was like a live thing, and it was amazing. But the point is that after some time, this guy himself started covering it up, because he said that what happened is that it's getting so much attention that it's backfiring. I wanted attention, but it's getting so much attention that it's taking attention away from me, and the attention is going to that snake.
Yeah.
So he didn't like it then finally.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
there are pros and cons. I don't think it's a great issue. Obviously, there are so many issues like that which we need to talk about. And
Right. Yeah. Okay. Any other
teachers these
questions?
days are faced with so many problems as parents totally put responsibility on teachers. Yes, that's quite right, Malika. We seem to feel
Right. So, any other questions, friends? We've come to the close of our time, but in case there's anything more you want to ask, or yeah. Yeah. So I think we can close the meeting if that's it. Thank you once again, Dr. Jamila, for being here and giving your very best. And truly, it was a wonderful session for all of us. And Dr. Jamila just disconnected it. Yeah, right. Yeah. Hello, Dr. Jamila. Can you hear us? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I think we'll close the session as there are no more questions now. I think we're done. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session, truly very, very comprehensive and informative, as some of the parents are saying. And I thought you really took some of the very, very key issues that come up, really. So that is really, you took on those challenges upfront. So that was very, very important. I'm sure all the parents who've seen this and who will see it online will be blessed. So thank you so much. Okay, God bless you all. Have a great night. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Good night.
Dr.